This is not ordinary timing. This is not random scrolling. This is not another video placed in your path by coincidence. This is a heavenly interruption. Right now, as your thumb was about to move, as your attention was about to drift, a warning has been released in the spirit. Archangel Michael, the great warrior and protector, is sounding an alarm. And the alarm is not soft. It is not symbolic. It is urgent. Do not scroll. There are moments in life when destiny whispers, and there are moments when it shouts. This is a shout, the kind that pierces distraction, the kind that cuts through noise, the kind that refuses to be ignored. A $100 million shift is happening in the next 2 minutes. Not next week, not next year, not someday. In the next 2 minutes. You may be wondering what this means. Is it money? Is it opportunity? Is it favor? Listen carefully. Heaven does not measure wealth the way the world does. When Archangel Michael speaks of a $100 million shift, he is revealing something far deeper than paper currency. He is exposing a transfer, a movement, a repositioning, a divine reallocation of value, favor, authority, and opportunity that is being released in the spirit realm. And here is the shocking part. Participation is connected to attention. That is why the warning is so direct. Skip this video, and you will never recover from the loss. Not because God is cruel, not because heaven is punishing, but because certain windows only open once. Certain doors swing open for a moment, and when they close, they do not reopen in the same way. The loss is not a threat. It is a consequence of absence. Right now, a spiritual exchange is taking place. There are seasons when preparation happens quietly. There are seasons when testing refines you. There are seasons when waiting stretches you. But then there are moments of shift. Moments when everything that was building behind the scenes suddenly aligns. The next 2 minutes represent that alignment. Why you? Why now? Because you were positioned here. Out of billions of people scrolling, something made you pause. Something made you read the title. Something stirred inside you. That stirring is not curiosity alone. It is recognition. Your spirit recognizes when it is being called. Archangel Michael does not waste warnings. When he appears in Scripture, it is always during battle, during transition, during protection over something valuable. And you are valuable. Your calling is valuable. Your future carries weight. There are resources, connections, and breakthroughs assigned to your obedience in specific moments. Missed timing can delay what was meant to accelerate you. The enemy understands the power of distraction. That is why the battlefield today is not always visible. It is subtle. It is digital. It is endless scrolling, endless noise, endless consumption. Because if your focus can be hijacked, your shift can be postponed. If your attention is scattered, your inheritance can be intercepted. But today, heaven interrupts the pattern. The phrase $100 million shift is not exaggeration. It is revelation. It represents magnitude. It represents multiplication beyond what you imagined. It represents a restoration that outweighs past losses. Some of you have lost opportunities before. Some of you have watched doors close. Some of you have felt the sting of almost. And the fear inside you whispers, what if this is another disappointment? Listen carefully. This is different. This is not about chasing something. This is about receiving something already set in motion. The next 2 minutes are not about effort. They are about alignment. Alignment of your faith. alignment of your focus, alignment of your agreement with what heaven is declaring. When Archangel Michael warns you not to scroll, he is not controlling you. He is protecting you. Protection sometimes looks like interruption. It feels inconvenient. It feels sudden. But it is mercy. Because there are losses you can recover from. And there are losses that alter timelines. The loss spoken about in this warning is not financial alone. It is the loss of momentum. A loss of divine timing. The loss of a transfer that required your awareness to activate. Some blessings are sovereign. They happen regardless. But others require participation. They require agreement. They require you to be present when your name is called. And your name is being called. Right now, in the unseen realm, movement is happening. Assignments are being shifted. Opportunities are being released. Favor is being redirected. The question is not whether the shift is real. The question is whether you will remain present long enough to step into it. The next 2 minutes are a threshold. On one side is routine. On the other side is acceleration. On one side is distraction. On the other side is destiny. And the bridge between them is attention. Do not underestimate small moments. History is filled with people whose lives changed in a single decision. A single yes. A single pause. A single act of obedience when it would have been easier to ignore. You were about to scroll, but instead, you stopped. And that pause may be the difference between ordinary and overflow. This is the urgent heavenly interruption. This is the warning. This is the moment that does not repeat itself in the same way. Archangel Michael is not whispering. He is standing guard over a transfer with your name attached. The shift has already begun. There are moments in history when heaven opens a window so precisely timed that only those who are spiritually alert can recognize it. This is one of those moments. The warning has been released, and now the revelation deepens. The divine timing window has opened. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now, when heaven moves, it does not move randomly. There is order. There is alignment. There is a sacred rhythm. And when that rhythm reaches its appointed second, something shifts in ways that cannot be reversed. You are standing inside that second. The next 2 minutes are not symbolic exaggeration. They represent a spiritual intersection where preparation meets release. For months, maybe years, you have been in preparation. You have endured delays that did not make sense. You have faced battles that felt disproportionate to your situation. You have wondered why resistance followed you when all you were trying to do was move forward. What you did not see was the calibration. Heaven was aligning events, people, opportunities, and resources so that when the window opened, the transfer would be clean and unstoppable. Divine timing is different from human timing. Human timing demands visible proof before belief. Divine timing requires belief before visible proof. That is why this moment is so critical. A shift does not wait for full understanding. It responds to agreement. In the unseen realm, assignments are being rearranged. Doors that seem permanently locked are being unlocked. Conversations you thought were over are being revisited. Opportunities you believed were lost are being rerouted. And the acceleration attached to this shift is why Archangel Michael issued the warning not to scroll. Because when divine timing activates, hesitation can cost momentum. Some people miss their window because they are waiting for something louder. They expect thunder. They expect dramatic signs. But often, the most powerful openings come disguised as simple decisions. A decision to listen. A decision to stay. A decision to respond when called. This is that response moment. The $100 million shift represents magnitude, but magnitude does not always arrive with noise. It often begins quietly in the spirit before it manifests visibly in the natural. You may not see immediate fireworks. What you will experience is alignment. Clarity replacing confusion. Peace replacing anxiety. Strategic ideas replacing frustration. These are the first signs that the window is active. Right now, heaven is measuring responsiveness, not perfection, not qualifications, responsiveness. When your spirit says yes, something locks into place. When you agree with what God is releasing, you become positioned to receive it fully. And here is where participation matters. This is not passive. This is not background noise. This is a moment of alignment that requires engagement. When you interact, when you declare, when you publicly agree, you are not just typing words, you are establishing spiritual agreement. If this message is resonating in your spirit, if you feel that stirring that says this is for me, then do not stay silent. Like this video as an act of agreement. Subscribe to this channel as a declaration that you are aligned with divine instruction. Comment Michael I receive as a bold confirmation that you are stepping into this timing window. Share this message with someone who cannot afford to miss their shift. When you engage, you are not supporting a platform. You are amplifying a warning that could protect and position another soul. There is power in collective agreement. When many respond in unity, the atmosphere shifts even more intensely. What heaven releases multiplies when faith is shared, and you are part of that multiplication. The divine timing window does not remain open indefinitely. It opens, it releases, and then it transitions into the next phase. Some will watch casually. Others will respond intentionally. The difference between the two is outcome. You may have felt stuck before this moment. You may have sensed that something was about to change but could not identify what. That sensation was not imagination. It was anticipation. The spirit often detects shifts before the mind understands them. The next 2 minutes are not about rushing. They are about recognizing. Recognizing that this is your intersection. Recognizing that distraction is not harmless right now. Recognizing that obedience in small actions can unlock massive acceleration. Archangel Michael's warning was protection. This revelation is positioning. Together, they form a gateway into favor that outweighs past losses, a gateway into restoration that feels disproportionate to what you endured, a gateway into authority you did not know you were ready to carry. Do not treat this lightly. Do not assume there will be another identical moment. Divine timing is precise. It is intentional. And it responds to those who respond to it. The window is open. The shift is active. And you are standing exactly where you need to be. There is a transfer happening that most people will never recognize until it has already passed them by. It is not announced on news channels. It is not tracked by markets. It does not flash across financial screens. Yet it carries a value greater than $100 million. This is the hidden transfer no one told you about. When heaven shifts wealth, it does not always begin with numbers. It begins with authority. It begins with access. It begins with positioning. The world defines wealth by accumulation, but the kingdom defines wealth by assignment. And right now, assignments are being redistributed. Some people are about to step into influence they did not fight for. Others are about to receive clarity they did not study for. Some are about to walk into opportunities that look accidental to outsiders but were orchestrated in the unseen realm. This is what the $100 million shift truly represents. It is the release of stored-up favor. It is the activation of delayed promises. It is the compensation for seasons of hidden endurance. But here is what makes this transfer hidden. Distraction is the enemy's final strategy. You were not attacked the hardest in your weakest seasons. You were attacked the hardest right before breakthrough. Confusion increased. Fatigue intensified. Out-whispered louder than before. Why? Because when a transfer is near, resistance rises. And the simplest way to block a transfer is to redirect attention. Scrolling seems harmless. Distraction feels small. But when destiny is knocking, even a small delay can create a missed synchronization. The spirit realm operates on alignment. When heaven releases something with your name on it, you must be in position to receive it. The trap of scrolling past destiny is subtle. It does not feel like rebellion. It feels like routine. It feels like, I will catch the next one. But what if there is no identical next one? What if this was the appointed second? What if this was the moment when your agreement activated the transfer? The hidden transfer is not just about receiving. It is about exchange. Heaven exchanges fear for authority. It exchanges delay for acceleration. It exchanges loss for restoration. Some of you have endured financial strain. Some of you have endured emotional depletion. Some of you have endured silent battles no one else saw. The shift now is not random blessing. It is divine recompense. There are resources assigned to your obedience. There are connections waiting for your alignment. There are ideas that will generate more than money. They will generate impact. But the first step in receiving is awareness. And awareness is why this warning came before the shift fully manifests. You were meant to hear this before it unfolded. The difference between those who step into transfer and those who miss it often comes down to one thing: response. Do you dismiss it as exaggeration? Or do you lean in with expectation? Faith is not blind optimism. Faith is agreement with divine instruction even when you cannot yet see the outcome. The $100 million shift symbolizes overflow beyond previous limitation. It symbolizes multiplication where there was once stagnation. It symbolizes restoration that exceeds what was taken. But restoration does not flow into distraction. It flows into readiness. Right now, readiness looks like attention. It looks like intentional listening. It looks like saying within your spirit, I receive what heaven is releasing. There is also something deeper happening. The transfer includes wisdom. Strategies are being downloaded. Creative solutions are forming. Old mindsets are being replaced. When this shift lands fully, you will think differently. You will move differently. You will no longer tolerate what once drained you. That is part of the wealth. Renewed perception is wealth. And there is something unexpected about to be revealed next. Something that explains why this moment feels heavier than usual, why the atmosphere around this message feels charged, why you sensed urgency before understanding it. You will be glad you remain present for what is about to unfold. Before we continue deeper into what is being activated, seal your agreement with a prophetic act. Type I am ready for the shift in the comments. Lesson code 114 is now activated. This is not superstition. It is declaration. When you type those words, you are not informing me. You are aligning yourself. You are signaling readiness. You are stepping into agreement with the transfer that is already in motion. And as this hidden transfer accelerates, understand something clearly. Heaven does not withdraw what is received in faith. What you align with now becomes part of your spiritual inventory. Authority increases. Favor expands. Momentum builds. The shift is not coming. It has begun. This moment is sacred. And if this message is igniting something in your spirit, if you feel the weight of this transfer, then hear this as an extension of that same shift. When you sow into this mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not giving to a platform. You are fueling a harvest of souls who are standing at their own 2-minute threshold. The Lord declares, as you pour out, I will pour into you, and that promise is alive right now. When you act, you become a river, not a reservoir. I feel led to say this clearly. I am stepping forward because I know this word must reach others. Your seed becomes light in someone else's darkness. Your obedience becomes oil that keeps this prophetic fire burning. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code is on the screen. Move as the Spirit moves you. So now and step into the overflow assigned to those who respond without hesitation. The phrase $100 million was not spoken to impress you. It was spoken to awaken you. The numbers in the Spirit are rarely about arithmetic alone. They carry weight. They carry layers. They carry revelation. And when Archangel Michael warned you about a $100 million shift, he was revealing magnitude, not merely money. Let us decode this. 100 represents fullness. It represents completion of a cycle. It represents a harvest that has reached maturity. In spiritual symbolism, 100-fold return is the language of overflow. It is what happens when obedience meets divine favor and multiplies beyond expectation. It is not addition. It is multiplication. Now consider 1 million. A million represents expansion beyond ordinary capacity. It is territory-level increase. It is influence that stretches beyond personal survival into generational impact. When heaven speaks in millions, it is speaking about scale. It is speaking about something too large to be contained by old structures. 100 multiplied by 1 million creates a picture of complete overflow at expanded scale. That is what the $100 million shift symbolizes. It is complete overflow operating at expanded scale in your life. This is not about lottery thinking. It is about legacy thinking. Heaven measures wealth differently than the world. The world measures by possession. Heaven measures by stewardship. The world celebrates accumulation. Heaven celebrates multiplication through purpose. When a shift of this magnitude occurs, it is not just about what comes into your hands. It is about what flows through your hands. Some of you have been asking for increase. But increase without capacity can crush a person. That is why preparation preceded this warning. That is why delay existed. That is why stretching seasons were necessary. You were not being denied. You were being expanded. The $100 million symbol also speaks of authority. When large sums are mentioned in spiritual language, they often represent weighty responsibility. Authority over territory. Authority over influence. Authority over decisions that impact others. This shift is not just giving you more. It is trusting you with more. And trust from heaven is never casual. You may have felt pressure lately. A sense that something bigger than you was forming. A weight that felt uncomfortable. That weight was preparation for responsibility. When increase comes, expectations rise. But so does empowerment. Heaven does not release authority without also releasing grace to carry it. There is another layer hidden in this number. 8 zeros follow the 1. 8 is often associated with new beginnings, new creation, new cycles. Imagine 8 new beginnings lined up behind a single act of alignment. That is what this shift represents. Multiple new beginnings connected to one decision of obedience. You thought you were simply watching a video. But spiritually, you were stepping into a gateway of new cycles. The $100 million shift is also about restoration of what was stolen. Some of you have experienced loss in different forms: financial loss, relational loss, lost time, lost confidence. The enemy attempted to drain you quietly. But restoration in the kingdom does not merely replace what was taken. It restores with increase. What was removed returns multiplied. This is why the warning carried such intensity. Because when restoration of this magnitude is near, opposition attempts to create apathy. Apathy is easier than open rebellion. If you can be lulled into indifference, you will not fight for your alignment. If you can be convinced that this is exaggeration, you will not step fully into readiness. But this is not exaggeration. It is exposure. The symbol also reveals something about timing. 100 million is a number that suggests long accumulation. It is not built overnight. It is gathered piece by piece, layer by layer. In the same way, your shift did not begin today. It has been accumulating through every test you passed, every temptation you resisted, every prayer you whispered when no one else heard. Heaven was keeping record. Now the accumulation has reached tipping point. When tipping point arrives, change feels sudden to observers. But it was building quietly all along. That is what is happening now. The unseen has reached visible threshold. The hidden has reached release stage. And here is the most important part of this decoding. You are not chasing this shift. You are being positioned for it. There is a difference between striving and receiving. Striving exhausts. Receiving aligns. The $100 million symbol is not inviting you into panic. It is inviting you into posture. A posture of expectation. A posture of readiness. A posture of stewardship. Ask yourself this. If heaven entrusted you with expanded influence, would your mindset support it? If greater resources flowed toward you, would your discipline sustain it? If authority increased around you, would your character anchor it? These questions are not accusations. They are preparation prompts. Because when the shift manifests more clearly in the natural, it will require maturity. It will require discernment. It will require courage. And everything you have endured has been training for that very moment. The number is large because the assignment is large. The symbol is bold because the calling is bold. The warning was urgent because the transfer is significant. You are not stepping into a small adjustment. You are stepping into expanded territory. An expanded territory requires expanded vision. This is the decoding of the $100 million shift. It is fullness multiplied by expansion. It is restoration multiplied by authority. It is new beginnings multiplied by responsibility. And you are standing at the edge of it. 2 minutes. 120 seconds. It sounds insignificant when measured by a clock. It feels small when compared to years of waiting. But in the spirit, 2 minutes can divide years. 2 minutes can separate preparation from promotion. 2 minutes can determine whether a door opens smoothly or closes quietly. You are standing at a 2-minute threshold. Thresholds are sacred spaces. They are the thin lines between what was and what will be. They are the invisible borders between one season and another. Most people do not recognize thresholds because they are looking for dramatic announcements. But thresholds are often silent. They require awareness. They require discernment. They require stillness in the middle of noise. The warning not to scroll was not about control. It was about positioning at the threshold. Because once you cross into a new season, you cannot return to the exact same version of yourself. Something shifts internally before it ever shifts externally. The 2-minute window represents decision. Decision compresses time. A decision can accomplish what years of drifting cannot. Some people wait decades for change, yet refuse to decide in the moment when change is offered. The spirit realm responds to decisive alignment. Right now, in this threshold, something is being measured. Not your past, not your mistakes, not your qualifications, your responsiveness. 2 minutes is long enough to hesitate. 2 minutes is long enough to agree. 2 minutes is long enough to scroll away. 2 minutes is long enough to anchor yourself in faith. The difference between those outcomes is not talent. It is intention. There are stories throughout life where everything changed in a matter of moments. A phone call answered. A step taken. A word spoken. A yes declared. It did not take years to trigger the shift. It took a decision at the right time. You may have been in a long season of delay. You may have felt like progress moves slowly, like breakthrough stayed just beyond reach. That slow season was not wasted. It was preparation. Preparation stretches time, but release compresses it. When release comes, it moves quickly. That is why the warning emphasized the next 2 minutes. Not because heaven operates under panic, but because heaven honors timing. There are appointed seconds where everything aligns. Missed alignment does not mean destruction, but it can mean postponement. And postponement carries its own cost. In this threshold, you are being invited to shift your posture. Move from passive to intentional. Move from distracted to attentive. Move from uncertain to aligned. The 2-minute threshold is also about faith under pressure. When urgency is introduced, doubt often rises. The mind asks, what if this is nothing? The spirit asks, what if this is everything? The threshold is where those two voices compete. If you lean toward skepticism, you will retreat to comfort. If you lean toward faith, you will step into expansion. Expansion does not always feel safe. It stretches your identity. It challenges old narratives. It forces you to release smaller expectations. Some of you have been playing small because playing small felt manageable. But this shift is not small, and the threshold is demanding a larger version of you. 2 minutes can redefine identity. In this window, heaven is not demanding perfection. It is inviting courage. Courage to believe that something significant can happen quickly. Courage to accept that your life can accelerate. Courage to let go of the story that says, it will always be this way. The threshold also desfocus. Distraction pulls you backward into routine. Focus pulls you forward into destiny. The world constantly trains your attention to fragment, but the Spirit trains your attention to concentrate. Concentration activates power. When you focus intentionally during a threshold, you align with what is being released. You step into rhythm with divine timing. And when rhythm aligns, resistance weakens. There is another dimension to this 2-minute window. It is symbolic of transition from hesitation to movement. Many people remain stuck not because they lack opportunity, but because they linger too long in analysis. They analyze until the moment passes. They calculate until the door closes. This is not an analysis moment. This is an alignment moment. Alignment sometimes feels simple. It may look like agreement in your heart. It may sound like a quiet declaration, I receive. It may feel like a shift in expectation. But do not underestimate subtle internal shifts. Internal agreement creates external pathways. As you stand in this threshold, understand something powerful. Once you cross it, momentum builds. Momentum is easier to sustain than to initiate. The hardest part is stepping across the line. After that, movement compounds. The 2-minute threshold is not threatening you. It is inviting you. It is saying, step forward. Let go. Trust the preparation. Accept the extension. When this window closes, it will not close in failure. It will close in transition. You will either step into acceleration or remain where you were. The choice is quiet, but the outcome is significant. This is the sacred space between what you have known and what you are about to experience. 2 minutes. A line in the spirit. A decision in your heart. And a shift already in motion, waiting for you to cross the threshold. There is a cost to every decision. Some costs are immediate and visible. Others are subtle and delayed. The most dangerous costs are the ones you do not feel until much later. Ignoring a warning from heaven does not always produce instant collapse. Often, it produces gradual erosion. And erosion is quiet. When Archangel Michael warns you not to scroll, it is not a dramatic threat. It is protective insight. Because the cost of ignoring divine timing is rarely explosive. It is usually incremental. Omitted souls. Clarity fades. Opportunities drift towards someone more prepared to respond. The cost is not punishment. It is misalignment. Imagine standing at a train platform when your train arrives exactly on schedule. The doors open. The conductor announces the destination. You hesitate. You question. You glance at your phone. And while you debate, the doors close. The train leaves. The station remains. You are still safe. You are still alive. But you are no longer moving toward the intended destination at the appointed time. That is what ignoring this warning looks like in the spirit. There are moments that determine speed. If missed, you can still arrive eventually, but the journey becomes longer, harder, and filled with unnecessary detours. The cost is time, and time is one of the most valuable currencies you possess. Some of you have already experienced the pain of almost. You sensed an opportunity but delayed action. You felt led to speak but remained silent. You felt prompted to move but chose comfort. Later, you realized that moment had been pivotal. The regret was not loud, but it lingered. Heaven does not want you living in regret cycles. Ignoring a divine nudge slowly conditions the heart to doubt future nudges. The more you dismiss spiritual urgency, the quieter your sensitivity becomes. Not because God stops speaking, but because repetition without response dulls perception. The cost is not only missed opportunity, it is diminished sensitivity. And diminished sensitivity makes future thresholds harder to recognize. The enemy does not need to destroy you outright. He only needs to delay you consistently. Delay drains confidence. Delay feeds discouragement. Delay reshapes expectation downward. Eventually, you stop expecting acceleration at all. That is why this warning was strong. Because the shift attached to this moment is not small. The greater the release, the greater the resistance. The greater the opportunity, the subtler the distraction. Ignoring this warning would not erase your calling, but it could postpone its manifestation. It could redirect certain doors toward others who are more responsive. It could slow the restoration that was meant to overtake you quickly. Some people assume there will always be another chance identical to the first. But divine timing is layered. Each moment carries unique variables, unique alignments, unique renarians. When one passes, the next may look similar, but it will not be the same. And sameness matters. There is also an internal cost. When you ignore what your spirit recognizes as significant, something inside you contracts. Confidence shrinks. Boldness weakens. you begin to question whether you truly heard anything at all. Over time, that questioning becomes hesitation. Hesitation becomes inaction. Inaction becomes stagnation. Stagnation is not dramatic. It is slow. You may not notice it immediately. But months later, you look around and wonder why nothing feels different. Why growth stalled. Why momentum never built. The answer often traces back to a threshold moment where distraction won. The cost of ignoring this warning is not that God withdraws love. His love remains constant. The cost is that you step out of synchronization with a specific release. Synchronization creates acceleration. Desynchronization creates friction. Friction exhausts. Acceleration energizes. There are also relational costs. When you delay obedience, you may miss alignment with people assigned to your next season. Connections are often time-sensitive. If you are not positioned when they arrive, they move forward without you. Later, you may encounter them again, but the context will have changed. The cost, then, becomes complexity. What could have been smooth becomes complicated. What could have been swift becomes prolonged. The warning was mercy because mercy prevents unnecessary complexity. Another cost is narrative reinforcement. If you ignore this and nothing immediately collapses, you might tell yourself, "See, it did not matter." That narrative becomes a pattern. And the next time urgency comes, you dismiss it faster. Over time, patterns of dismissal create cycles of limitation. Cycles are hard to break once formed. This moment was sent to interrupt cycles. It was sent to interrupt the pattern of delay, to interrupt the habit of hesitation, to interrupt the belief that significant shifts must always take years. Ignoring it reinforces old patterns. Responding to it breaks them. There is also a spiritual cost connected to authority. When you respond to divine instruction quickly, your authority increases. Confidence builds. Discernment sharpens. But when you repeatedly delay, authority feels unstable. You question your own leadership over your life. Authority is strengthened through obedience under pressure. Right now, pressure is minimal. It is simply the pressure of choice. Stay aligned or drift away. Engage or dismiss. Believe or rationalize. The cost of ignoring this warning is not catastrophic overnight failure. It is the quiet forfeiture of acceleration. And acceleration is what has been building behind the scenes for you. Heaven issued the warning because the shift is significant enough that postponement would feel painful later. Not because you were unworthy, but because the window was precise. This is your opportunity to choose alignment over apathy, to choose synchronization over stagnation, to choose acceleration over erosion. The cost of ignoring is subtle, but the reward of responding is powerful. There is a battle happening around you that you cannot see with your physical eyes, yet you feel it every single day. It is not always loud. It does not always look dramatic, but it is constant. It is the battle over your attention. Attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Where your attention flows, your energy follows. Where your energy goes, momentum builds. And where momentum builds, destiny unfolds. That is why attention has become the primary battlefield in this generation. Archangel Michael is known as a warrior, not because he seeks conflict, but because he protects what carries divine purpose. And what carries divine purpose in your life right now is your focus. If your focus can be fragmented, your power can be diluted. If your focus can be redirected, your timing can be disrupted. The enemy understands something many people overlook. You do not have to be destroyed to be delayed. You only have to be distracted. Distraction rarely feels dangerous. It feels harmless. It feels like a quick scroll, a short delay, a minor detour. But small detours accumulate. 5 minutes becomes 50. A moment of hesitation becomes a missed window. A missed window becomes another season of waiting. That is why this warning was framed around not scrolling. It was not about technology. It was about territory. Your attention is territory, and territory is either guarded or invaded. When a shift of this magnitude approaches, the intensity of distraction increases. You may have noticed it recently. Increased noise, increased mental clutter, increased temptation to disengage from what truly matters. That escalation is not random. It is strategic. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more your focus is targeted. Think about it. When you were in seasons of low impact, distraction did not feel urgent. But when you begin approaching expansion, everything competes harder for your mind. Notifications multiply. Doubts amplify. Old habits resurface. It is not coincidence. It is resistance. The battle over your attention is really a battle over your agreement. What you repeatedly focus on, you begin to agree with. If you focus on fear, you agree with limitation. If you focus on doubt, you agree with delay. If you focus on divine instruction, you agree with acceleration. Agreement activates alignment. Right now, your attention is being invited into alignment with a $100 million shift. That is not small territory. That is expanded influence. And expanded influence requires concentrated focus. There is a reason warriors guard gates. Gates are entry points. Your eyes and ears are gates. What enters consistently shapes what grows internally. If distraction enters repeatedly, clarity weakens. If truth enters consistently, conviction strengthens. You may feel like your attention drifts easily lately. That is not weakness. That is warfare. The question is not whether distraction exists. The question is whether you will guard your gates intentionally. Guarding your attention does not mean withdrawing from life. It means choosing what deserves your mental space. It means recognizing when something is pulling you away from alignment. It means deciding that your destiny is worth more than momentary entertainment. This shift requires mental discipline. It requires spiritual awareness. It requires you to say, "My focus is valuable. I will not give it cheaply." The enemy thrives in fragmentation. When your thoughts scatter, your confidence weakens. When your focus divides, your power diminishes. But when your attention is unified, authority increases. Unity of focus produces clarity of action. Clarity of action produces speed. Speed produces momentum. Momentum produces results. You are not just fighting random distraction. You are fighting for the integrity of your momentum. Archangel Michael's warning was protective because he understands the cost of divided focus. He understands that a distracted mind cannot fully step into accelerated timing. He understands that when attention is reclaimed, power is restored. Reclaiming your attention is an act of spiritual authority. It is saying, "I will not let every voice speak into my destiny. I will not let every notification dictate my direction. I will not let every fleeting thought redirect my path." The battle over your attention is also internal. Old narratives compete with new revelation. Past disappointments attempt to speak louder than God and promise. If you allow those narratives to dominate your focus, they will limit your expectation. But if you intentionally shift your focus toward what heaven is declaring, expectation rises. And expectation prepares capacity. Capacity determines how much you can receive. Right now, you are being invited to strengthen your focus, not through strain but through intention. Notice what pulls you away from alignment. Notice what drains your clarity. Notice what fragments your thinking. Then choose differently. This is not about perfection. It is about direction. Each time you redirect your attention back toward purpose, you weaken distractions' hold. Each time you choose focus over fragmentation, you reinforce momentum. The battle is real, but so is your authority. You are not powerless in this war. You are equipped. You are aware. And awareness is already victory in motion. The $100 million shift requires sustained focus to steward. That is why the battle intensified before the release. You were being trained to guard what is about to expand. Attention is territory. Territory must be guarded. And you are more capable of guarding it than you realize. This is the activation moment. Everything up until now has been preparation, warning, decoding, and positioning. But there comes a point in every divine encounter where information must become action. Revelation must become agreement. And agreement must become activation. You have crossed the threshold. You have understood the weight of the warning. You have recognized the battle over your attention. Now the question becomes simple and direct. Will you activate what has been released? Activation is not complicated. It is intentional alignment expressed outwardly. It is when what you believe internally becomes something you declare and move on externally. The $100 million shift is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for participation. There is a spiritual law at work here. What you openly agree with, you authorize in your life. Silence can be passive. Agreement is powerful. When you speak alignment, you strengthen it. When you act in faith, you anchor it. Right now, heaven is not asking you for grand gestures. It is asking you for decisive alignment. That may look like a declaration in your spirit. I receive the shift assigned to me. It may feel like a shift in posture, from doubt to expectation. It may sound like gratitude before visible proof appears. Gratitude activates multiplication. When you thank God before the evidence arrives, you demonstrate trust in the promise. And trust accelerates fulfillment. This activation moment is also about releasing old attachment to smaller expectations. Some of you have quietly adjusted your dreams downward to protect yourself from disappointment. You told yourself, maybe this is enough. Maybe I should not expect too much. But the shift being released is not small. It requires expanded expectation. Expansion begins in the mind before it manifests in the environment. So right now, expand your expectation. Allow yourself to believe that restoration can be greater than loss. Allow yourself to believe that acceleration can redeem delay. Allow yourself to believe that what looked impossible can become natural through divine favor. Activation also requires surrender. Not surrender to fear, but surrender to divine order. You may not know every detail of how this shift will unfold. You may not see the full blueprint. But you do not need the blueprint to take the next aligned step. The next aligned step is agreement. Agreement strengthens identity. Identity strengthens action. Action strengthens momentum. Here is something powerful happening as you listen. You can feel it. A seriousness. A clarity. A sense that this is not entertainment but encounter. That feeling is confirmation that activation is near. What happens next confirms everything. When activation takes place, subtle shifts begin immediately. Your thoughts become sharper. Your confidence stabilizes. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly become noticeable. Conversations take on new meaning. Ideas connect more quickly. That is the evidence of internal activation producing external ripple. Do not underestimate internal decisions. They are the seeds of visible outcomes. This moment is also a dividing line between observers and participants. Observers analyze. Participants activate. Observers wait for proof. Participants move in faith. The shift flows more strongly toward participants. You have listened this far because something inside you refuses to remain passive. That refusal is readiness. Now seal that readiness with a prophetic act. Type "My time is now" in the comments. Blessing code 268 is now activated. When you type those words, you are not performing ritual. You are making declaration. You are marking this moment as the point where delay ends and acceleration begins. You are drawing a line in the spirit and saying, "I cross into my appointed season." As you declare it, believe it. As you believe it, expect it. As you expect it, prepare for it. Preparation after activation is crucial. When you declare that your time is now, begin acting like it. Speak with confidence. Make decisions with clarity. Guard your attention with intention. Steward your resources with wisdom. Expansion requires stewardship. You may not see everything change overnight, but you will sense the difference. Peace will replace pressure. Direction will replace confusion. Opportunity will replace stagnation. Activation aligns you with flow. Flow reduces friction. Reduced friction increases speed. And speed builds visible evidence of the shift. This is your activation moment. It is not random. It is not forced. It is divinely synchronized. You were warned not to scroll. You were invited to recognize the threshold. You were shown the cost of ignoring. You were equipped to guard your attention. Now you have activated your alignment. The shift is no longer theoretical. It is personal. As this activation settles in your spirit, understand that sowing into this mission is also an activation. When you release a seed through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are stepping into the flow you just declared. The Lord says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you," and that word is alive in this very moment. I feel this deeply. I am responding because this message must reach those standing at their own threshold. Your seed becomes rain on fields you may never see, but heaven records every drop. When you give, you are not losing, you are aligning with multiplication. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code is before you as an open door. So now, as a prophetic act, and step boldly into the harvest attached to your obedience. The shift has been activated. The threshold has been crossed. The declaration has been spoken. Now comes something many people overlook: securing the transfer. Activation begins the movement. Securing sustains it. When heaven releases something of this magnitude, it must be guarded intentionally. Not because it is fragile, but because you are stepping into a higher level of stewardship. The $100 million shift represents overflow, authority, restoration, and expansion. But overflow without structure can spill. Authority without discipline can weaken. Expansion without wisdom can overwhelm. Securing the transfer means aligning your daily actions with what you have declared. The first step in securing is gratitude. Gratitude is not a polite response. It is a spiritual anchor. When you consistently give thanks for what has been released, even before full manifestation, you stabilize your expectation. Gratitude keeps doubt from creeping back in. It reminds your mind that the shift is already in motion. The second step is guarding your confession. After moments of bold declaration, old thoughts often try to return. You may hear whispers like, "Was that really for you?" Or, "What if nothing changes?" This is where securing becomes intentional. You do not entertain those whispers. You replace them. You say, "The shift has begun. I am aligned. I am positioned." Words reinforce direction. The third step is strategic action. When favor increases, movement must follow. Pay attention to ideas that surface. Pay attention to conversations that feel different. Pay attention to doors that seem slightly open. The transfer often comes disguised as opportunity. If you ignore the opportunity, you weaken the flow. Securing the transfer requires attentiveness. It also requires humility. Sometimes expansion tempts pride, but pride interrupts flow. Humility maintains alignment. When you remain teachable, flexible, and grateful, you create space for continued increase. Another critical element in securing this shift is consistency. Many people experience powerful moments but fail in sustained discipline. They ignite quickly but fade slowly. This transfer is not meant to fade. It is meant to compound. Compounding happens through daily alignment. Ask yourself each day, does this decision reflect someone who has stepped into expanded territory? Does this conversation reflect confidence in divine timing? Does this action reflect stewardship of increased authority? When your habits begin matching your declaration, momentum solidifies. There is also something powerful about public agreement. When you share what God is doing, when you testify even in early stages, you strengthen the reality of the shift in your own life. Silence sometimes protects, but testimony often multiplies. If this message has stirred you, if you feel clarity and activation rising inside you, do not keep it to yourself. Like this video as a declaration that you are securing the transfer. Comment your expectation. Share this prophetic alert with someone who needs to align with their own timing window. Subscribe and stand firmly in this flow of revelation. Engagement is not algorithmic only. It is agreement. And agreement amplifies. Securing also means protecting your environment. Environments influence expectation. If you surround yourself with constant negativity, skepticism, and small thinking, it becomes harder to maintain expanded vision. You do not have to isolate yourself, but you must filter what shapes your belief system. Feed your faith consistently. Limit what drains it. There will be subtle tests after activation. Delays that seem minor. Conversations that challenge your confidence. Situations that look similar to old patterns. These are not signs that the shift failed. They are opportunities to secure it. When you respond differently than before, you confirm the shift internally. For example, if you once reacted with fear and now you respond with calm clarity, that is evidence of internal transfer. If you once hesitated and now you move decisively, that is evidence of secured authority. These small confirmations build unshakable confidence. You may not yet see the full financial or visible manifestation of the $100 million shift, but securing ensures that when it appears, you are ready to sustain it. Preparation continues even after activation. Growth continues even after breakthrough. And here is something deeply important. Do not measure the shift only by money. Measure it by access. Measure it by influence. Measure it by restored peace. Measure it by accelerated clarity. Often, the greatest wealth arrives in forms that create long-term multiplication beyond immediate numbers. The transfer you are securing is layered. It touches mindset, opportunity, relationships, and resources. As you move forward from this moment, carry this awareness. You are not hoping for a shift. You are stewarding one. Your posture determines permanence. If you treat this as temporary excitement, it will fade. If you treat it as permanent expansion, it will root deeply. Securing the transfer means living as though it is already real, because in the spirit, it is. You were warned. You responded. You activated. Now you secure. Momentum is building quietly. Evidence is forming gradually. Acceleration is aligning steadily. And what you are securing today will soon be undeniable. When a shift happens in the spirit, the natural world begins to echo it. Not always with fireworks, not always with dramatic announcements, but with patterns, subtle confirmations, supernatural evidence that something has changed beneath the surface. The $100 million shift you activated will not remain invisible forever. Evidence follows alignment, and when it begins to appear, you must recognize it so you do not dismiss it as coincidence. The first evidence you will notice is clarity. Confusion that once felt heavy will begin to lift. Decisions that once seemed complicated will feel simpler. You will sense direction forming where there was once fog. This clarity is not accidental. It is a sign that internal alignment has taken place. When your spirit aligns with divine timing, mental clutter loses its grip. You may wake up with ideas that feel strategic. Solutions that were hidden before will seem obvious. Connections between opportunities will become clear. This is supernatural wisdom at work. It does not always shout. It often whispers with precision. The second evidence is unusual favor. Favor does not mean everything becomes effortless. It means resistance loses its dominance. Conversations may flow more smoothly. Doors that once remained closed may open with less struggle. People may respond to you differently. Opportunities may arise in unexpected places. You might find that something you once chased begins to approach you instead. That reversal is evidence of shift. The third evidence is restore momentum. For a long time, you may have felt like you were pushing against invisible barriers. Effort produced minimal return. Progress felt slow. But after activation and securing the transfer, you will begin to sense movement. Small wins will appear. One breakthrough will connect to another. Momentum will start building naturally. Momentum is one of the clearest signs that timing has aligned. You will also notice an internal strengthening. Confidence will stabilize. Not arrogance, but quiet assurance. The kind that says, I know I am positioned. Fear will still attempt to whisper, but it will no longer dominate your thinking. Doubt will knock, but it will not settle. Peace will become more consistent. This peace is supernatural evidence that you are no longer fighting the same internal battles. When alignment occurs, internal warfare decreases. You are no longer wrestling with indecision. You are moving with conviction. Another evidence is strategic connections. You may encounter people who carry pieces of your next assignment. Conversations may spark ideas that accelerate plans. Someone may mention an opportunity that aligns perfectly with what has been forming in your heart. These are not random meetings. They are divine intersections. Pay attention to who enters your circle during this season. Not everyone will stay, but some are assigned. You may also experience restoration in areas that seem permanently damaged. Relationships that felt strained may soften. Financial strain may begin to ease through creative solutions. Opportunities that once slipped through your hands may reappear in new form. Restoration rarely looks identical to what was lost. It often returns upgraded. This is important. Do not reject restored opportunities because they look different from what you expected. The shift may repackage blessings in new containers. There will also be evidence in your discipline. Habits that once felt difficult to maintain may become easier. Focus may strengthen. Procrastination may weaken. You will find yourself acting with greater intention. This internal discipline supports external increase. When internal order increases, external expansion becomes sustainable. Another sign will be heightened discernment. You will sense more quickly what aligns and what does not. Situations that once confused you will become clearer. You will recognize distractions sooner. The sharpened awareness protects the transfer you secured. Do not overlook these subtle confirmations. Many people expect supernatural evidence to be loud, but often it is progressive, layer by layer, sign by sign. One day you will look back and realize that the shift did not happen all at once. It unfolded through consistent alignment, through daily decisions, through quiet obedience. There may also be tests disguised as setbacks, a delay that seems discouraging, a challenge that feels familiar. These moments are not contradictions of the shift. They are confirmations of growth. Your response will be different now. You will not panic as before. You will not retreat as before. Your steadiness will reveal the change. Supernatural evidence also includes new desire. You may feel drawn toward bigger goals, larger vision, greater impact. Dreams that once felt unrealistic may begin to feel attainable. That expansion of desire is part of the transfer. It stretches your capacity to match your assignment. And here is something profound. Others may begin to notice the difference before you fully articulate it. They may comment on your confidence, your clarity, your energy. They may sense that something has shifted around you, because it has. The $100 million shift was never just about numbers. It was about transformation. And transformation leaves fingerprints everywhere. As evidence unfolds, remain grounded, remain grateful, remain disciplined. Do not rush ahead of timing. Continue aligning daily. Continue guarding your attention. Continue speaking life over what is forming. The evidence will grow stronger. The momentum will become undeniable. And soon, what began as a warning not to scroll will be remembered as the moment everything quietly changed. There are moments in life that divide everything into before and after. You may not recognize them fully while you are standing inside them, but later, when you look back, you see the line clearly. You see the shift. You see the decision. You see the invisible turning point that changed the trajectory of your life. This is that irreversible turning point. When Archangel Michael warned you not to scroll, it was not about a single action. It was about crossing a line in the spirit. A line between passive living and intentional alignment. A line between drifting through opportunity and stepping directly into it. A line between waiting endlessly and moving decisively. Turning points are rarely comfortable. They demand clarity. They demand courage. They demand that you release the version of yourself that survived past seasons and embrace the version of yourself that can lead in the next one. Something irreversible has already begun. Irreversible does not mean you lose free will. It means that once revelation has been received and activation has taken place, you cannot return to ignorance. You cannot unhear what was spoken. You cannot unknow what was revealed. You cannot fully go back to the smaller expectations you once tolerated. Awareness changes you, and you are aware now. Before this moment, you may have questioned your timing. You may have wondered whether acceleration was truly possible. You may have adjusted to delay as if it were permanent. But after this encounter, something inside you refuses to settle for stagnation. That refusal is the turning point. There is a shift in identity that accompanies irreversible moments. Identity shapes action. Action shapes outcome. When identity changes, patterns break. You no longer respond the same way to pressure. You no longer shrink in the face of opportunity. You no longer accept narratives that limit your expansion. The $100 million shift is not just an event. It is a recalibration of how you see yourself. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not permanently delayed. You are positioned. Once you embrace that positioning, your decisions begin to reflect it. You speak differently. You plan differently. You evaluate opportunities differently. You even handle setbacks differently. What once would have discouraged you now strengthens you. What once would have intimidated you now challenges you constructively. That is evidence of irreversible growth. Turning points also refine your circle. As you step into expanded territory, not everyone will understand your clarity. Some may question your confidence. Others may doubt your expectation. But turning points require separation from voices that reinforce old limitations. This does not mean isolation. It means discernment. You begin to recognize who aligns with your forward movement and who anchors you to old patterns. You do not respond with anger. You respond with wisdom. You adjust your proximity accordingly. Another sign of irreversible change is strength and conviction. Before, you might have hesitated to declare what you believed was coming. And now you speak with calm assurance. You do not need to argue. You do not need to convince. You simply know. Knowing replaces striving. Striving exhausts. Knowing stabilizes. The turning point also affects your relationship with time. Instead of feeling pressured by lost years, you begin to see them as preparation. Instead of mourning delay, you recognize training. Instead of fearing the future, you anticipate it. Anticipation fuels movement. Movement builds momentum. Momentum confirms transformation. There will be moments ahead when the old version of you attempts to resurface. Fear may knock. Doubt may whisper. Familiar insecurity may try to reintroduce itself, but it will not have the same authority, because you have crossed the line of awareness. You will catch those thoughts faster. You will reject them sooner. You will realign more quickly. That speed of recovery is irreversible growth in action. The irreversible turning point also shifts your tolerance. You will no longer tolerate environments that suffocate vision. You will no longer entertain conversations that drain purpose. You will no longer accept internal narratives that contradict divine timing. Your standards rise, and raised standards attract elevated opportunities. This is not pride. It is maturity. Maturity recognizes when seasons change. And seasons have changed for you. The shift that began as a warning not to scroll has now become a landmark in your life. One day you will say, that was the moment I decided to align fully. That was the moment I stopped minimizing my expectation. That was the moment acceleration began. Even if the full manifestation unfolds gradually, the turning point has already occurred internally. Internal shifts precede external transformation. The line has been drawn. The threshold has been crossed. The activation has been secured. The evidence has begun. And now you stand on the other side of hesitation. Irreversible does not mean effortless. Challenges will still arise. Growth will still require discipline. But you will approach them from a different identity. An expanded identity. An aligned identity. This is no longer about hoping something changes. It is about stewarding what already has. You are not who you were before this encounter. and you will not return to smaller thinking again. This is the final seal. You were warned not to scroll. You were positioned at a threshold. You decoded the shift. You understood the cost of ignoring it. You guarded your attention. You activated your alignment. You secured the transfer. You recognized the evidence. You stepped into an irreversible turning point. Now, this moment seals it. The $100 million shift was never just about increase. It was about protection and expansion moving together. Because true increase without protection becomes vulnerability. But when heaven seals something, it surrounds it. Right now, there is a sealing taking place over your focus, your momentum, your opportunities, and your assignment. What had been activated is not fragile, it is fortified. Archangel Michael's warning with a beginning of protection. His final seal is the confirmation of it. You are not stepping into expansion alone. You are stepping into guarded expansion. The same authority that alerted you to this moment now stands over what had been released. The same divine precision that opened the window now watches over your progress. This seal represents three things: preservation, multiplication, and peace. Preservation means what has begun will not be easily stolen. You may face resistance, but it will not erase alignment. You may encounter challenges, but they will not undo activation. What has been sealed carries divine backing. Multiplication means the shift will not remain static. It will grow. What begins as clarity becomes strategy. What begins as strategy becomes opportunity. What begins as opportunity becomes overflow. Growth compounds when sealed by obedience. Peace means you will not move forward in anxiety. The shift was not designed to overwhelm you. It was designed to elevate you. As expansion unfolds, peace will anchor you. You will not need to chase frantically. You will move confidently. This is the divine tone of your new season. You may not see every detail today, but sealing does not require full visibility. It requires trust. Trust that what was spoken was accurate. Trust that what was activated is real. Trust that what was secured will endure. Look at how far you have come in this encounter alone. You began with urgency. You moved through revelation. You stepped into declaration. Now you stand in assurance. Assurance is powerful. Assurance stabilizes vision. Assurance sustains discipline. Assurance strengthens faith. From this point forward, remember this truth. You did not stumble into this shift. You were led into it. Nothing about this was random. The timing was precise. The warning was intentional. The activation was aligned. And the seal is final. There will be days ahead when evidence increases rapidly. There may be days when growth feels steady rather than dramatic. In both, remain grounded. Remain grateful. Remain focused. The seal is not dependent on emotion. It is anchored in alignment. This is not the end of a message. It is the beginning of a manifestation. Your role now is simple. Walk it out. Guard your attention. Speak with confidence. Act with discipline. Expect increase. Trust protection. Let your life reflect someone who knows they have crossed into expanded territory. The $100 million shift was symbolic of magnitude, and magnitude has been released. Now seal it with your declaration. Type IT is sealed in the comments. Blessing code 909 is now activated. When you declare it, do so with conviction. You are not hoping it is sealed. You are confirming it. You are marking this moment as the line between old limitation and new expansion. And as you step forward, hear this assurance clearly. You are covered. You are positioned. You are aligned. What is meant for you will not bypass you. What hath been released will not evaporate. What has begun will reach completion. Walk boldly. Move confidently. Expect multiplication. The seal is set. As this seal rests over your life, let your response become a seed. When you sow through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are sealing this word not only over yourself, but over countless others waiting for their turning point. The Lord declares, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest shall not cease, and that promise breathes over your obedience right now. I sense this deeply. I am acting because this fire must continue to burn for souls on the edge of their breakthrough. Your giving becomes oil in the lamp, ensuring the light never goes out. Heaven sees every seed and multiplies it beyond what you release. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code is before you. This is your moment to move. So now, and step into the harvest that answers your obedience. You have been warned. You have responded. You have been sealed. A shift is yours.